jealous? Okay, so forgive me for sounding and looking like this. I rolled out of bed like, I don't know, 10 minutes ago. So, as per our usual family fashion, everything was pretty busy last week and it's hard to take footage, but mostly to all of what I did last week was field work. So, rock picking and doing a bunch of the other necessary things that need to be done for field work. We were balancing 4 different plots of land, one of which I haven't entered yet, one of which we finished both the machine rock picking and then the manual walk picking, and a third that only needed to be done with machine because there really wasn't that much rock at all really, and then my dad has put extra veneer on it because we're planting sorghum in there, and then there's one patch of land I haven't gotten to. I started on with the genie or the museum, so that also needs to be done. However, it's supposed to rain all week this week, and it rained on Saturday, which makes all of our fields into muddy, swampy messes, and so I can't get into them with the museum. And then, on the animal side of things, on the daily chores, the girls in the wash bay, a whole bunch of them have gotten sick. They've gotten some kind of dietary issue where their hair is not like the scour's yellow that you normally see, but it's like almost a green-gray tint, and it doesn't look healthy, of course, but it was something that, to a certain degree, they've gotten over in the past. But last year I did end up treating the milk, or sorry, not last year, last round, so that was the spring. I ended up treating the milk for the last group that had it, and they shaped up pretty well. So I've started doing that for this group. However, I had unfortunately been away from the barn so much that I haven't had the proper time to like properly spot check and give shots to whoever needed it and anything like that. So basically, I had to catch up on all of that, and I had a group that is very, not very sickly, but not doing great. So I treated them with shots, and hopefully they'll get better with the treated milk as well. So, and I'm using 2 different drugs. Anybody who had reoccurring lung issues, they got a shot of Efficer, and then anybody who is just starting to show issues got penicillin and draxxin, and then of course the dietary issues on top of that. So there's a lot going on in the wash bay in terms of treating babies, keeping everybody alive, and getting things going. I just did a walkthrough and it still looks like there's one's dying in one of the pens. And then for in the room here, everything's fine. They need to be tagged, processed, and brought into the infected area, unfortunately. And then yesterday, also what happened was me and one of the employees, we did the daily chores, and then we did bedding, and then Dad walked up to me and said, "Do you want to go get a 100-pound calf from the neighbor?" And my response was sure. So we went and we got him, and he's a little beef cow. He apparently had a rough go of it, and the farmer, he is basically a retired man who enjoys animals. So he's been dealing with them on a hobby level. Mind you, he is tired, so he wants to go and do things. And this calf, it really struggled, and then he ended up having to bottle it. And he doesn't like to bottle, he likes to leave them on the mother. So now the little guy won't latch onto the mother. And this impedes the old man living his retired life. And so he knows my dad would have multiple deals with him in order to buy some of his hayland, or not hayland, but his hay off his land. And we've helped him with making sure that his animals have proper feed and everything. So it's like he's a neighbor, and he's a good neighbor, and we keep that connection pretty well. So now we have that little beef cow, and last night was his first full night here, and I need to feed him. However, last night he didn't take to the bottle very well. So I'm gonna get started with morning chores because, as you can hear, they're a little upset with me, and we're going to go do probably more treatments and making sure that bull calf is okay and he's adapting, because last night he looked very lonely. And we'll go from there. I might end up doing a lot of data entry today. We were dealing with quite a few things. My brother on Friday, I think it was, accidentally mixed the groups, and I was so worried that I didn't have the right data in. Thankfully, the groups he mixed were the groups from are breeding right now, so they're entered in as a breeding group, and then the other group that got put in with them, which is why it was a big thing to get it out, is because of bucks. So we got all the bucks out, and then we had to sort through all of the girls. And the other group that got mixed in that was girls was the high productive group that we have right now. So they're the ones that had kids this spring, like earlier February or so. And so thankfully their data was in the computer, but it was still, oh my god, I need to get data done. So I think I have an employee for a full day today, in terms of like somebody in the yard and everything like that. Hopefully I can pass on a few jobs to them that I would normally do myself, because I know that employee is particular. So yeah, let's get started. There you go. There you go. Nope. You're too big for them. Not yours. So while I stand here, I might as well speak on the fact that we now have one, there you go, 1, 2, 3 young jerseys, and 2 big girls over there, and a beef. So the beef had been bought like 8 months ago, and he just didn't arrive until the spring, because he came from the same place that this guy did. And we just, like, the timing didn't line up right, and we didn't end up going and getting him, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, we got him here. And then, within the week that he got here, that I was gonna make video about him, very suddenly, he decided to play escape artist. And he basically ran off, and he used to live in the bush, because his entire herd lived in the bush. So he basically hid in the bush, and then one day when one of my friends was over, which was the day he escaped, my friend drove down the driveway and said, there's a cow here. And I thought he said cat. I didn't think that he said cow. And I ran down the stairs in PJs and flip-flops in January and found out that it was not a cat, it was a cow. So I went back to my apartment, got steel toes on, still in PJs, but we ended up chasing him around a bunch, and we couldn't get him back into the barn whatsoever. So we waited a few days, and at that point I already left and gone to the work placement that I did. And the end of the entire debacle was we basically borrowed a tranquilizer gun from the vet, and we ended up having to tranquilize him and bring him back to the barn and make sure that everything was reinforced. So that's his story, and he's been here since. The girls' stories, the 5 girls that are here. Sorry, he just unlatched himself. Come on, big guy. There's the nipple. Come on. Are you just not hungry anymore? No more? Well, as I was saying, the girl's story is a little different. My dad basically went for a farm tour with another guy and ended up looking at a couple of the jerseys that were there, because my mom wanted a jersey. She wants some cow milk, and mostly to play around with, like to make yogurt and stuff like that. So my dad was going to get my mom a cow, which, not surprising for my family, not shocking at all. And what basically happened is that my mom and my dad were looking at the group, and my dad then offered a rather low number just to see if it, like, see what happens. And the guy just said, yeah, for all 5. And so my dad originally left thinking he was only going to come home with 1 cow, and he came home with 5. As you can imagine, I wasn't very pleased, especially considering all of the debacle that happened with having to tranquilize that big guy that's in there. And so I decided I was going to try and halter train them, and that worked really well until I ran out of time, and my little brother has no interest. So hopefully I can make these guys friendly enough that they're not going to run off, but I don't know. So we'll see. But yes, so we have 3 young ones, all the same age, all from, their tag says February of 2025. So all from roughly around that date. And that one is yellow, that one is green, and that one's orange. And I have named them as such because I can't tell them fully apart. Well, I can because I see them all the time, but initially when we first got them, they're all brown jerseys. So I painted their ear tags with paint, and I've just been continuously calling them by the paint colors. I already explained this little boy's story, and he seems to be finished now. He's stopped drinking, so he's just kind of standing here now. But yes, the older 2 there, the 2 jerseys that are in there, they were supposed to have been inseminated, if not exposed, to a buck. And, or not buck, bull. And the big guy in there is a bull. So one of them we think is probably for sure pregnant. The other one we're not sure about. So we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have a calf born. But yeah, that's where we're at. And that's why there were so many cows in the picture, because I'm standing in a goat barn. So yes, on to the rest of the day, because I haven't gotten very far. So okay, I got partway through treatments, and I have run out of one of the most mandatory drugs I need. So I'm headed to the vet, and I'm gonna go grab some stuff
but I also don't want to do too much driving, so I'm probably gonna stop for groceries, and I have to stop for some knives for the baler. So we're making a round trip. So let's go. So, at the vet, I got more Medicam, DH1, penicillin, times 2. So, I'm going to use this penicillin to finish what I was doing this morning, which was treatments. So, out we go. This one only has one thing left. Haven't gotten much done today. We did treatments this morning, and now I am helping train one of the employees to pick up the really big rocks. So that's what we're working on. Are you in rabbit or bunny? Or sorry, are you in rabbit or rabbit or snail? Not snail. Yeah, turtle. Okay, well you can turn it on the turtle. There you go. See, you got it. You gotta open up your claw so it can fall back into your bucket. Now you didn't do it aggressively enough. Open your claws. There you go. Now close them again and do it again. There you go. Alrighty, it is 12 o'clock. Go home for lunch and then you can go and shovel things. Would you rather shovel things?
Yeah. Yeah.
We can just head back. So home again, home again. Home again? No, we'll do vaccinations next week. Okay, so I have spent most of this week in the barn and doing stuff in the barn because it's been a really wet and cold week. So rock picking has of course been pushed back. So today, being Friday, we did bedding. Last weekend, we had a mix-up with a bunch of the goats. So what happened was that the group that is in that barn, so the high productive group, got mixed with our breeding group, which was okay because for data entry, they're fine. They're all entered in. The breeding group is entered in, so they're all fine too. So we luckily didn't have like the fresh group that I haven't managed to put in the computer yet put into the group, but regardless, it still happened. And I wanted to make note of that because we had an instance this year, or this cycle, with kidding all the way through till now, which was not intentional. So that means that there was either a miscommunication as to where the bucks were supposed to move, or there were mistakes that were made in moving the bucks. So that's something I'm going to have to get more on top of and everything. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, so for now, that's where everything's at. And I'm gonna go work on data entry. So that's been the past 2 weeks.